So you are.
I didn't hear the things.
I didn't. It just came over.
Okay. All right, everybody. I'd like to call to order the November 8th, 5:30 City Council Workshop. Welcome, everybody. Unfortunately, there is no public comment during this 1-hour workshop. But if you'd like to comment on what we talk about today, we will have a city council meeting at 6:30. If we get this one off on time, and there will be a public comment right at the very beginning there. So just about an hour from now, if you'd like to comment about today's workshop or any other issue, you'll be more than welcome to do that. You do have to sign up for Carrie, with Carrie to do that. There are forms on the table at the door there. Thank you very much for that. We only have one item on the workshop today, so we have the full hour for that. And it is a discussion about the UGB. And I would like to say for the record that all the counselors are here, so we have a quorum, and everybody else that's going to speak today is here. So go ahead, Scott.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Welcome to the public and those attending on Zoom. My name is Scott Woodford. I'm the Community Development Director. And this discussion today is a continuation of the discussion that we started basically, I guess, back at the joint meeting of October 19th with the Planning Commission, where we presented you with the updated UGB sufficiency report. So the goal of the meeting tonight is to get some direction from council on what the council would like to do with the information that was presented in the report and some of the conclusions that came out of the report. But before we get to that point, I wanted to be able to give you a little bit of a background on how we got to where we are and kind of frame the question a little bit for both the council and the public. This discussion really started back in 2020 with the update of the Sisters Comprehensive Plan, which is a 20-year plan that's required by the state of Oregon for communities to undertake, and it's a 20-year master plan for growth and development in a community. Every community in Oregon has one, and they update them from time to time. We updated ours then, and along with that update to the comprehensive plan, when you go through that process, there's a whole number of technical studies that you're required to undertake to help inform the future of your communities. It's all based on population projections and population projections that are provided by Portland State University. And we base all of our planning off of what the anticipated population is going to be 20 years out. And so we do a housing needs analysis that takes that population and equates it to a number of housing units that we anticipate we would need to satisfy the growth, anticipated growth. We also do an economic opportunities analysis that looks at the types of industry and businesses that we want to have in our community and maybe attract to the community, and based on that anticipates how much land would be needed to accommodate that. We also do a buildable lands inventory at the time to take a look at how much land do we have left in our existing boundaries. And at the time, we also did a first draft of the UGB sufficiency report, which kind of reconciles both what the anticipated demand is and the capacity of our existing lands to accommodate that. And back at that time, if you'll recall, the recommendation was that, or the identified need was anywhere between 0 and 100 acres of land. And that was quite a range, but it was sort of based on how aggressive we wanted to be with efficiency measures to accommodate some of that growth within our existing boundaries or not. And so after we adopted the comprehensive plan and acknowledged all those studies, we went into year-long process of identifying efficiency measures that are the tools that we could undertake as a city to you make the use of our existing boundaries more efficient. And we adopted some code amendments along with that increased the multifamily zoning standards, both the minimum and the maximum, decrease the minimum lot size in our single family zones. It also introduced some middle housing unit types to our zone districts that we didn't have previously that are all designed to help accommodate some of that future need within our existing boundaries a little bit more efficiently than we were able to do previously. So after you get through that process, you know, the identified need is still there, but we needed to basically update our report, UGB sufficiency report, to account for the couple of years that have elapsed and the development that's occurred during that time, take into account the efficiency measures, what impact those had on that need. And also last year, I think it was last summer, we were presented with revised population projections for sisters that dramatically increased the projections for the community, which also equates to a need to expand, you know, the potential housing units to accommodate that. So we went through that process and we decided that for council to be able to make a decision on what to do for an urban growth boundary, potential urban growth boundary amendment, was to update the numbers to see where we were at with all that kind of taken into consideration. So we did that over the course of the last 6 to 9 months. We took steps to update that, and that's what we did with you at the October 19th meeting. And so that identified a new need of anywhere between 206 to 256 acres additional. And that is broken down further into 137 to 70 acres of residential land. And the reason that there's a change there is that we actually have a surplus of multifamily zone land in our existing boundary, but a deficiency in lower density. And so we don't typically like to use higher density land for lower density. We like to reserve it for the true purpose of that, apartments and multifamily. So the reason that the consultants recommended a rule is that there is a difference in the report of the study. Thank you. Okay, we'll try this one. And of that 260, 256, 51 acres of that was projected to be needed employment lands, expanding employment lands to keep up with the increased population, to make up for some of the loss of the employment lands that we've experienced in the last 2 years. And then we also take a look at what other uses or needs there are in the community, such as we talked to our public works department to say, hey, are you going to need some additional lands for you know, a treatment expansion of a treatment plant or headquarters for your operations. And they indicated that outside of maybe some small areas within new residential areas for pump stations and things like that, smaller acreage needs, they didn't need any additional large acreage in an urban growth boundary expansion. We talked to the school superintendent about what he thought his needs might be in the future, and he wasn't aware of these revised population projections, so he was going to have to go kind of take a look at reanalyze his projections based on that. And but he thought that based on kind of a first blush that it would be prudent to accommodate up to 15 acres in a new expanded urban growth boundary for another elementary school. Thought that the high school was plenty big to satisfy the capacity in the middle school as well, with potential, if they needed to, they could add on to where they are now, but didn't like the idea of potentially adding a second story onto an elementary school or any of that. So that's a recommendation that came out of the study, was additional acreage for schools. And then we recently updated our Parks Master Plan, and which also utilize these population projections to plan for future parks and open spaces, to make sure that as we grow, we're also incorporating those types of amenities into our city. And the recommendation here is anywhere between 2 and 19 acres. And the reason there's such a big disparity there is based on whether we want to maintain our existing level of service, which the consultants for the Parks Master Plan had pointed out that it's low for our type of community. And if we want to raise our level of service, then they recommended up to 19 acres of additional land that would be recommended. So, our comprehensive plans require urban growth boundaries. Urban growth boundaries are part of the Oregon state planning law. They're a useful tool. I think they really do a lot to help protect forest and farmland, but they weren't designed just to be written in stone and never expanded. They were meant to be expanded as our communities grow along with it. And so when you have an identified housing need, the state statutes say that you must expand your urban growth boundary to meet that need. It's a little bit looser with respect to employment lands. It says you may expand for employment lands, but it certainly seems to be a requirement with residential land. So what we're looking for today is to hear from council how they would like to handle this information, and direct staff to either kind of keep status quo and kick the can down the road, so to speak, or act on this sooner rather than later. If we direct staff to move on this, the process would likely involve hiring a consultant, because these are big lifts, kind of like the comprehensive plan, and there's a lot of analysis that needs to go on. And we would probably be well served to have a consultant help us along with that process. It would take anywhere between 12 to 16 months, we anticipate, for that process to play out. It would could cost $150,000 to help pay for all that. It also could potentially involve consideration of a urban area reserve. We talked about that last time. Your urban growth boundary is your 0 to 20 year supply, and an urban reserve area is a kind of a larger area drawn around the community that is your 50-year supply. And those kind of gives a little bit of it helps the community plan for the future, and helps lay out an expectation of where future growth might occur, and that those maybe 20 years down the line, when we consider another urban growth boundary expansion, those would be the areas where we would look at first. And then also would highly recommend doing some area planning as well, along with an urban growth boundary expansion, which provides a higher level of planning in terms of where the streets might go, and where these different types of uses would be potentially sited in an area. It gives a little more information about how utilities would be served to that area, because the urban growth boundary will come with a more general framework of how things are laid out. And if we want to have some expectation and for how we want these areas to develop out in the future, that area planning process is a very valuable tool in my experience. And then the process would be basically a comprehensive plan amendment that we would be submitting, that would also be concurrently run with the county. Would be basically a co-applicant, because they would have to modify their comprehensive plan at the same time to take certain lands out of the county and into our urban growth boundary. So that's kind of a highlight of what the issue is as we see it. We're here to answer questions. We have Andrew Parrish, who's from MIG, who helped us with the UGB sufficiency report. If there's questions that I can't answer, or if you have questions for him. Jordan, I don't know if you want to add anything to this, just to what I just said, or if we just want to open it up to questions with the council.
Oh, it's a great overview. I think the way we structured this council was to have this work session, right? This is a workshop, not intended to make any decisions at this point, but given that the last session was a joint session with the Planning Commission, this is a chance for council to ask questions, find out more information about the process, the data that went into it, the history, et cetera. And then we would come back with the formal ask whether to proceed or not. So in your direction tonight, yeah, come back at the next meeting. We'll give you a motion to proceed. And what that would look like is issuing an RFP, getting proposals. The contract would then be approved by the city council at a future meeting. You know, one thing with the expenses related to this, we did have a tentative grant that's been approved from the state to assist with that process. So we, definitely look to be able to utilize those funds to offset the cost to the city to go through that process. But another thing just to add about the 12 to 16 months, during that time, there's substantial public involvement, and community engagement. And a big part of that cost to do this work is all that public engagement, the town halls, the public hearings, all the process that goes into the analysis of the different alternatives and the expansion areas that may be proposed and the parcel analysis. And so the public would be involved throughout the entire process.
Yeah, your mic's off. Thank you for that update. And now it's kind of our turn to talk and ask questions. And you can go first if you're ready to go.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. This is
Excited.
okay.
So I just wanted to hear a little bit more about once at the 12, 16 months period, and there's quite a long period for other things to happen. In other words, if we decide to expand based on some area planning, I mean, that takes what, another year or so?
Yeah, it could take 6 months to a year.
Right,
That's a
okay,
process.
and then to get the comprehensive plan done after that, that's another year maybe?
Well, the timeframe, the initial timeframe includes the comprehensive plan
Oh,
amendment.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about, 3 years of time approximately, give or take.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of public involvement. Thank you. Okay, that was my question.
3 years ago when we did the new comprehensive plan, our population was about 3,200, whatever's on the sign for the census. It was, it says 32 something. And we're right now at 3,650. So in the 3 years we've just been talking about this, we've grown quite a bit, obviously. So I just want people to keep that in mind as we're even considering this. Our town is growing at about a 5% a year clip, and it's just something to consider. We're growing so fast that it's not about if we're going to grow. We're growing now, and as we grow now, with the current UGB, that's the same size as the city limits, basically. We're getting more full and getting less opportunities to do some of the things that we want, such as more amenities as parks and open spaces and affordable housing. Those are going to just get harder and harder to do. So this is a huge decision to make, but it's also with the thought that we're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing it for the people that are going to be here 20 years from now. And I might not be one of them. I'm not getting any younger. So this is a thought about planning, and we have to just keep that in mind. We're not talking about tomorrow. We're talking about years worth of tomorrows before some of this stuff happens. The last time we annexed any land into the city was for the airport, which didn't was productive for its time, but it didn't add any housing to our inventory, and it didn't add any new businesses other than what is happening at the airport itself. The time before that was 2005, when we grew out there at Mackenzie Meadows and then annexed that in, and that was for obviously for housing, and it is just now full. So it took 15, 18 years for that to be completely built out. So even if we grew the UGB tomorrow by 250 acres, which we're not doing, obviously, we're talking about doing it, but we're not actually doing it. I would comfortably say that even if we could find all that land and add it, it would take 20 years to fill. Now, that doesn't mean the population's going to stop coming, though. So whether we decide to do it or not, people are still coming and they're moving here because Sisters is a beautiful place to live. And we were all new here at one time. Some of us 30 years ago, some of us 15 years ago, and some of us 5 years ago.
I
And
mean, some of us remember the 9/11 sign.
you do. I do before I moved here, but I moved here in 07 and I still consider myself very new. When I talk to the Barclays and the T-Waltz and the legacy families here, I really feel like a newbie still in a lot of ways. But I just want us to all realize the enormity of this discussion. And as important as it is, we also have to remember that a UGB expansion does not grow the city limits 1 inch. Even if we bring all this land into an urban growth boundary, that's still just a planning stage for future growth. It does not guarantee any future size adjustments by annexation. And so it is a step in that direction, obviously, but that is a step in planning that has to be considered, is what I'm going to say. So my question to you, Scott, is if you've mentioned about pausing or, slowing down our thought process on the UGB expansion, doesn't that just push the can down the road a little bit, and it doesn't actually help us plan at all? I would consider that a lack of planning. Is that a fair thing to say?
I guess you could say that. If you think about, housing supply and affordability and the connection there, and the time frame that it takes to, expand your urban growth boundary and have somebody approach us for annexation, development, and master plan and subdivision and all that, and the time frame that it takes, your best case scenario is maybe 5 years before something comes out of the ground there. And so in the process, we're not getting we're getting more people, but not more open space. And we're not getting the opportunities for affordable housing or just housing in general to kind of help ease some of that housing crunch. So that's what we consider to be good planning, is planning for that future.
Whether it happens 5 years or 20 years, it's just
intended to be a
plan.
20-year plan. It's not, like you say, it's not, there's no expectation that it's going to all happen at once.
Okay. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, as long as my voice holds here. Am I not correct also that if we choose the do nothing option, which has been suggested by some, that the state says we can't do that, that when we run out of available land within the UGB, we must expand the UGB under the OARs. I think it's OIR 660 subsection 380 or 800 or something. And while no city has tested that, as I understand from some of the notes I read and from you folks, I don't think I want to be the first city to test it, especially given that we're seeing a big push out of Salem to make more housing available to the citizens of the state. Not necessarily the citizens of Sisters, but we are part of the state. And so I would rather that we approach this as a thoughtful planning process looking at what our resources are and what might be appropriate available land so that we're ready to do something when the time comes. And I also understand that expanding the UGB is just that. It's just drawing another line around the city. That land remains in the county tax coffers until annexation. And at annexation, the council at that time can decide how much land to bring in, should that occur. It can decide what that land will be used for. It might not be the kind of housing we see out at Pine Meadows. It might be more the kind of houses we see at Mackenzie Meadows, or even we're looking at some higher density housing than that. And so that's up to a group of people that may not be sitting at this table when this whole thing comes together. And so I can't see kicking the can down the road as a viable option. I think it's a mistake for this community. And I think it's a mistake for the future leaders of this community. And that's where I am on this right now.
Some questions that I get asked that I would like you to flush out a little bit. We are basing the need on PSU population estimates. We are required to use that particular estimate, are we not?
Yeah, that's correct.
Do they have a good track record of projection? Is that something that by and large has been truthful in its expectations, or is it sort of all over the map, or how do we feel about that?
Well, I have not heard, that it's way off. I mean, it's certainly it's a best guess based on a lot of different factors, and that's they have a really pretty complicated and methodology that they use to arrive at that. I have not heard that their population projections are wildly off. They do update them from time to time based on new information.
Right. Yeah. My
and-
experience here in Sisters has been, it's usually they're estimating it higher, not usually lower, because we're such a great place to live. Everybody wants to move here. Have you felt that the efficiency measures that we've already instituted have made much of an impact for our ability to have more housing within the existing city limits? And is it likely to have an impact? I remember reading where, because we still have some limiting parking issues, et cetera, that it hasn't been a whirlwind of, oh boy, we've got these new options and lots of people are taking advantage of it. Would you speak to that for a minute?
Yeah, I think, you're accurate in that, even though we took the steps to increase our multifamily density, multifamily residential density all the way up to potentially 50 units per acre, which is the highest, and it would be contingent upon providing a certain percentage of affordable housing. It's kind of the highest mark that you could possibly get. But I think that it would be difficult to fully achieve that in some of those higher density levels because of our parking requirements. We took a look at our parking requirements. We actually, that was one of the efficiency measures, and for good reasons, we decided that we weren't quite ready to do that because of our limited transit and our isolation that requires us to drive a lot, and people like to have their toys around here. So we kind of decided not to go there. And then we considered building height increases. That proved to be pretty controversial with the community, and we decided to back off on those too. So it'd be really difficult to achieve those higher end densities. I think it's going to provide some flexibility. It maybe hasn't really kicked in completely as of yet. I think it's going to be a useful tool down the line once we start seeing some infill lots around here. We're starting to talk to some affordable housing developers that want to do some projects here in the core area that could use that flexibility and those increased development standards to bring in affordable units. We have talked to a developer, if you recall, we did some density bonuses for affordable housing that we instituted, and we've been talking with some developers who are willing or already wanting to utilize some of those extra units for their projects. So I think it's maybe we're not quite seeing the prime time for those kind implementation of those, but I think over the course of time, they'll become more popular. And as we get feedback from folks that say we would love to do this, but we can't do this because of this, that's when we kind of come back and say we need to reevaluate some of our standards to see if we can make those projects happen.
Great, thank you. My last question. In your experience, if we were to say, we've got a little buildable land now and we are growing, but there could be a recession right around the corner. Things could turn around and change. Do we really needed to be in a big hurry to do this? What would this community look like in 10 to 20 years if we decided not to expand the urban growth boundary? The reading that I have done has indicated that that doesn't keep people from wanting to move here. And therefore, when housing does become available here, local people are usually priced out of that market because people from outside Oregon probably would be able to pay a higher premium for the housing that's here. That could very easily ricochet into that population probably being more mature, like I am, and probably don't have a lot of children in schools, and that the demographics can start to lean towards fewer children in the community, which then creates a problem for our schools. Are those old wives' tales or urban legends, or do you see that as a likely scenario? Because you definitely have people here who say, God, we've just hit the sweet spot here. We've got our own movie theater. We've got our own brew pub. We don't have as much traffic on certain days in certain places. We're taking care of it. Couldn't we just stay like we are? And I just know that that's not really a viable option, but could you expand on the likelihood of what would happen if we said no new growth?
Yeah, I think you accurately summed it up in terms of what some of the impacts would be to the community. It's already difficult for, at this stage, when we're still growing, to find housing for our workforce. And it's just, with limited supply and the demand to continue unabated, where what's going to happen at that point with housing costs. And so I think that you start to lose the the ability to have teachers in your community that can live here, and if they do, they try to live here for a while, and they decide that they can't afford to do it, so there's high turnover in some of those positions. And I think that we would have to, if we didn't grow at all, that would be very difficult to kind of keep opportunities available and keep a functioning community going. I've seen some communities like that back in Colorado that are starting to get to that point where you have to drive 50 miles to get your car repaired because there's just not any opportunities to do that. And that's a little bit of an extreme example, but that can happen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I want to remind everybody that I think the city has done a really great job of doing the homework that needed to be done before this process. This has been, as Scott pointed out in his presentation, at least 3 years of research and studies and projects. We're not walking into this like we just decided to do this yesterday. So I think we're well prepared to take on this question This is still a bit of, a question of whether we even expand. That's still on the table, but it's looking like per the data that expansion is probably going to be warranted, but that's why we do the process. And to kind of dovetail back into what Counselor Blum was saying, it's like, I know there is some sort of feeling from some people in the community. Sometimes it's like, well, we're in this sweet spot and why should we mess with success or something? But I think that's very personal. You can ask many people in this community that we are not in a sweet spot, and they are not in a sweet spot. They are many people struggling to pay for housing. Obviously the school district is starting to struggle to get teachers and keep teachers, which has never been a problem because of our good reputation, but our good reputation can't keep the teachers anymore, which is frustrating. The Forest Service has challenges, getting staff, especially the seasonal staff that are the critical people they're our firefighters that protect us every summer. They're the people who maintain the trails and the roads and the campgrounds that we all rely on every summer, for our quality of life here. If those people can't afford to live here, they're not doing those jobs for us. And obviously in the last few years, our medical services have slid backwards. We're starting to kind of crawl back up to a place where we can, where we were a few years ago for medical services. But that again, wraps right back into housing again. There's a lot of people, maybe a doctor can afford to move into the community right now, but not a nurse, not a technician, not the person that manages the front desk and the paperwork. None of these people can afford to move into this community. And I'm especially worried about, the kids coming out of our great school system. They have no hope. They have no hope of being able to settle in this community if they wanted to, and be part of this community for decades into the future. They are priced out from the moment that they graduate from high school. And that is not the sign of a healthy community. So I know, I mean, I love a lot of things about this town, but when you really listen and take the pulse of the community, we are not healthy right now. And if we don't take a hard look at expansion and what that could possibly do for us, we're not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. And we're going to be losing a lot of these services and these employees that make our community great. A massive amount of our employees in the community commute in, and they don't want to. They want to live here. And I want them to live here and be part of the community. I also want them to, take the money that they're earning here and spend it here and pay taxes here. But they're not doing that. They're spending it somewhere else. And that doesn't help us economically either. So I think we've done the homework, and I'm satisfied with what I've seen and the effort that our staff has put into this and council. And I'm excited to kind of move forward and see what we can learn from this process and from the community about, what can we make better for us. But as the mayor had said, this is really about the people in 5 to 10 to 20 years from now, about their lives. So that's all I have to say about that.
All right, and I think I'd follow up a little bit to dovetail with both your comments, and it's one thing we haven't really discussed enough, is our local businesses and small business owners. I'm one, and I can assure you that if the housing situation got so bad that some of our small business owners had to close their stores and move away, and we get to a point where housing is so expensive that new business owners couldn't take their place in the same storefronts, we could get into a situation of a snowball where businesses are shuttering and nobody's coming back in. And that affects housing, that affects kids and families that come with those small business owners. I'm not saying we have to grab 250 acres tomorrow, but to plan ahead for some of those housing lands and using some of the benchmarks that we might have to use for affordable housing that is being led by the governor's office, you know, the governor would like 30% of future housing to be affordable. We couldn't do that without having land to move into. But we could, in some new land, require some percentage of affordable housing, whatever's the best for our community. Because I don't think anybody's against affordable housing, but you can't have that if you don't have available land to build something on. And we're getting built out. The other side of that is the businesses again. Our business park, if anybody remembers it 10 years ago or 15 years ago, it was so underbuilt that previous city councils decided to allow a couple of subdivisions to go in there, Grand Peaks and Clear Pine. I don't think it was a terrible decision. I think it was something that was a good decision at the time. We look back on it and go, wow, it's created some issues with having houses near industrial businesses, and it's created a few issues, but it is what it is. It created housing that is now needed. We need all levels of housing. We don't need just affordable housing, but we do need housing that is attractive to business owners or retirees both. So it's a delicate balance. The one thing that I want to make sure, and this is kind of directed at staff a little bit, but also to the public, is that we're not doing this without your input. We may make some decisions to move forward to get that consultant on board so we can have that input happen. But nothing's going forward without your input at all. That's not happening. We've been laying the groundwork for this for a long, long time. We're doing this because the growth is happening as we speak, and we have to take a thoughtful path forward to make sure that A, we don't go too fast, or B, we don't go too slow. The sweet spot is hard to hit, and there are always going to be detractors. I get that part, but for the most part, as long as we're thoughtful about what we're doing, I think we'll be okay. And that won't make 100% of the people happy, but if we can make 80%, that'd be all right. And the last thing I'll say is anybody familiar what's going on in North Plains? They did a UBG expansion, and the citizens, especially the farmers in the area, really thought that they were being affected too broadly. And the citizens have come up with a referendum that's going to be on the ballot to overturn the UGB expansion. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but even if we made a decision down the road, there's always a way for citizens to change things if they wanted to. So there's never an end point to this, in the sense that things can't change. But if you want to look at what's going on in North Plains, it's a little interesting. The one thing I will say is there is zero chance that we'll be taking UGB land that's going to take farmland away. We don't have any around here really adjacent to the city, but we do have forest land that would be a very difficult decision to expand into if we had to. There's just not that many exception lands around us. So this is going to be difficult to do. Even if we go forward, there's going to be a long process after this to identify what those lands are and what landowners outside the city limits might even be interested. Some of them might not be. So let's just keep that in mind. So I think you have enough. Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Cobb, go ahead.
Yeah, I never stated my position, so I'd like to state my position. But before I do that, on the PSU numbers, estimation of population. So when did we have the estimate that we needed to grow 0 to 100 acres? Was that an estimate from 2019-18 from the PSU population?
So that was not a recommendation from PSU. That
No, that was what we came to after we knew what their recommendation was for population
correct.
growth.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
Right. And and then they do their population growth every 4 years. And so it looked to me like, at least in that instance, they underestimated.
That's correct.
Yeah,
They give
okay.
us every year. I
They,
think
they do
PSU
update.
They update it every year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Every 4 years.
Correct.
Okay, and so I just wanted to get that into the public arena. I feel not to move forward with having a consultant would be a dereliction of duty, because we're here to make sure that this town can move into the future in a managed way. And you can't do that without having information and doing research and involving the public. And so I think it's no question that we should, it's our responsibility, I feel.
Go ahead.
Just a quick comment. I noticed, I think it was in the Nugget today, that there was some sort of a 5-year look at housing prices and stuff. And while our housing average price of home has gone down, our average price per square foot is over $400. That is really amazing. Some of that's probably because of what's happening in the Woodlands. But I think my comment is this: as a 35-year educator, and actually in some ways a 60-year educator, because my father was a school superintendent, so I lived it most of my life. I've seen what happens to towns when you aren't able to bring elementary age children into your schools. Eventually, your middle school closes or your high school closes. They merge together and you got a middle and a high school. They try to keep things going, but it becomes real tough. Those of you who have been here a long time remember what happened when the mills closed and the high school closed. Some of you remember what it felt like to finally get a high school back. If we don't have affordable housing that can bring young children in, you're going to go through the same cycle. It won't be us, but it may be your children down the road, because schools need, the only way a school district survives is if you feed its elementary school. You got to feed it a lot of kids. And the way you get them is you have affordable housing that brings in families. And I think a lot of the growth we're seeing with the new elementary schools is because of Mackenzie Meadows, because those houses were affordable for people with children. People like me don't bring children in the community. We bring adults in the community that maybe help and maybe don't. So just keep that in mind too, as we go through this process, that we're not just looking at what we're going to do 5 years from now or 10 years from now. We're also looking at where this community needs to be health-wise 15, 20, or 30 years from now. And that means bringing in families, and that means having housing for our people who work here, and that means kids. It's the only way a community can really grow and prosper. That's my 10 cents.
Okay, thanks. I have a question for you. You mentioned the grant. You mentioned that the hiring a consultant, would be a certain amount. Does the grant fill most of that need or part of it, or how does that work?
So we have been awarded the grant, but at the time they weren't sure how much it was going to be. But I've seen some information recently that I think it's going to be in the $100,000 range.
So most of it, but
Yeah.
not all of it, is fair to say.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. What else do you need from us today?
I think we've got all the information that we needed to know to bring this back to you guys for a more formal motion to direct us to go forward with
Okay.
the process. That
And the last thing I'll say is let's just make sure. I mean, let's go over the top with our public outreach, and I don't want to ever be accused that we didn't have the public involved, or we're going to have robust, as you said in the paper, robust outreach, and let's do that.
Yeah.
And the public should know that we're thinking about this, and we're thinking about this through the lens of keeping Sisters livability at least as good or better than it is now. All of our decisions are made with that. I think we can all be proud of that. We're not perfect, but at the same time, you know, you talked about how long we've been thinking about this. I kind of even go back further to the visioning process, and the visioning process was kind of the kickoff document to even get to the comprehensive plan document. I think that it was really important to identify what the people of the city wanted in 2018 to have a proper comprehensive plan. Obviously, like I said, a lot of things have changed since we wrote that comprehensive plan, and to do this UGB expansion, we will have to amend it. But I think that it's our governing document that we're going to be using. So if anybody has any thoughts about that, go ahead and go back to the comprehensive plan, because it's all in there and my signature's on it. So
Picture.
yeah, but anyway, so thank you. If there's anything you need from us right now.
No,
Okay,
thank you very much.
all right, I appreciate it. We're going to take a 9-minute break. We're adjourned on this. The approval of the agenda.
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Next up is visitor communication.
Zenas, please. Sorry, Kuzma, is that correct? You were first, yes.
You win. I will remind everybody that, you know, we have a 3-minute limit, and I'll just kind of eyeball the clock. It's not like 3 minutes exactly, but I just have to be fair to everybody and
I know.
hold everybody at 3 minutes. Thank you.
Because I don't get interrupted like women usually do. Okay. My name is Zenya Kuzma. I live in Saddlestone, 914 East Horseback Trail. I've been a resident for 5 years. I've been through this process before. Town was the same size, 3,000. And what I saw happen was interesting because things moved along rather quickly, and then the public was invited for input, but they didn't have input in terms of the choice. They had input because it was required by law. So they didn't have much to say whether you hire a consultant, you know, at $150,000. 20% of the current homes here are not being occupied. 20. Then you have short-term rentals, okay, which is a national pandemic. And nationally, it's about 15%. So I'm willing to grow as long as we all take care of the short-term rental problem, because it's a problem and it's an issue. And Hood River found a solution. Lincoln City found a solution. Many towns across the US, Bozeman, small towns like ours, resort towns. So you're asking us to go along with this push, and I'm not against growth. And that's another thing. We keep telling the community they're against growth. We do not want things to stay the same. We're not in la la land. We understand. But to go on a projection that is not scientifically based nor proven with the 7,000 whatever, that's an estimate. In 2001, the estimate was 5,500. Currently, it looks like a recession. My neighbors cannot sell their homes. and they've decreased them by $100,000. Okay, so unless you're willing to address this 20% problem, you will not have the community's backing in a good way that you want for the urban growth boundary. I do believe an urban growth boundary needs to be expanded, but we have to do it sensibly, carefully, and not just believe everything one entity tells us. Okay, it's not good to base your decisions on one entity. So I'm just asking you to address the short-term rental 20% unoccupied homes here that could be occupied in long-term rentals before we move forward. And there is agricultural land by sea to table. That area which you have targeted is agriculturally zoned. So and sea to table has an aquifer underneath it. So you have to look at water. And to not do traffic studies before you annex an area is not a good idea. And also pipe stemming is something that happens in a lot of towns and has been outlawed. So I see pipe stemming as a problem with annexation. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That was 3 minutes. Very good.
Bruce Carpenter?
My name is Bruce Carpenter. I live at 17311 Mountain View Road. You spoke earlier of people who'd been here a long time. I played football on that field in 1965, 66 down here at the old school. But I really appreciate your conversation earlier. I started my career as a strategic planning analyst, and I firmly believe in strategic planning. I believe in looking out 20, 30 years. It'll never be right. It'll be close, but you're on the right job and the right path to look at those issues and considerations. In my other role, I'm the president of the Sisters Country Pickleball Club, and we are the only town in Central Oregon without public pickleball courts. We have been working on that for 4 years and trying to work with SPRD and the elementary school location if they ever sign a lease. I would hope that the city would participate in that. In the parks plan, there is a 2-court suggestion or part of the plan. In a neighborhood park, I would recommend you don't do that. And the reason is because the ball noise, you can research that on the internet, and it's a real issue across the nation. I think there's nearly 50 million pickleball players now, the last stat I saw. And Sisters at the last 21 census had 33% of its residents over 65. And it's a sport that's in that age bracket, but it's moving down quickly. Southern states are putting it in their schools as a sanctioned sport. I'm looking for a solution, whether it's through Parks and Recs, the city's parks, the pickleball club. It's a joint partnership of everyone to make that happen. And it is also an economic benefit to the Sisters as people plan their vacations now on where there are courts and where they can play. And at least the last thing I heard from Explore Sisters was about $293 a night per visitor as an economic benefit. And so I am interested in pickleball courts for the community, for the visitor, but for also the kids that will be coming up into that place. And whoever spoke that talked about kids, I'm all for that. My mom was a teacher for 38 years, and I support the educational system greatly. And so that's all I have to say. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Also 3 minutes exactly. Good job, you guys.
Monica Thomasay?
Welcome.
Thank you. Monica Thomasy, 527 South First Street. So I want to challenge you all to not fall to the phenomenon of having a failure of imagination. So I'd like you to consider all the concerns and issues and problems that that many of you mentioned, and I won't reiterate, you know what they are. And the idea that this urban growth boundary expansion would help solve those. Imagine if Sisters was surrounded by a body of water or a canyon and you physically couldn't grow. Wouldn't you be forced to think of some more creative ideas on what to do within the land that's not, that's not water or canyon? So I don't think that that everything's been explored within the current boundary. I think there are a lot of issues. Xenia mentioned one of them, like short-term rentals. If businesses feel like they're not making it, maybe look at what other things are going on, why they're not making it. And because I could foresee the urban growth boundary expanding and those businesses still won't make it. There's something else going on. It's not because there's not enough people here. So that's just an example. So I just ask you to just as a exercise, a creative exercise, what if there wasn't any land? What would you do? Because there are other things that can be done. And you can ask the public for ideas on what other things could be done to solve these problems that you all have identified and we're aware of. So I just ask that you do that and maybe explicitly ask, write down what those things are and ask the public, what do you think we ought to do about that? Can that be solved with the land you currently have? Would the urban growth boundary have to be expanded? Just take that objective kind of analysis of it is what I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you. 3 minutes again.
Casey-
Amazing, you guys. Amazing.
Casey Might and Henry Harrow.
Okay, there's 2 of you. Still just 3 minutes though. Gotta just tell you.
Oh.
We did fill out 2 seats.
Oh, no. Are you gonna take all 6? I just need to know so I can watch the clock.
I'll be brief, so
Okay.
he can take the brunt of it.
All right.
Name's Henry Horrocks. I live at 69275 Latigo. Resident here for 7.5 years, and I'm gonna let Casey take over so we don't go past but yeah, he's my partner.
Cool. Thank you.
My name is Casey Might. I live at 69315 Deer Ridge Road. Been a Sisters resident for almost 30 years. Co-owner and founder of Blazing Saddles, on the board of Explore Sisters, and have been on the board of Sisters Trail Alliance as well as Central Oregon Trail Alliance. So we're here tonight to talk to you guys about a business in the making, Stagecoach Adventures, that Henry and I are partners in. Stagecoach Adventures is a business set out to provide year-round recreation focused on outdoor recreation, and a shuttle service that's based out of Sisters. As standing Sisters locals, our mission is to facilitate transportation services for outdoor recreation in the Sisters area. Meanwhile, we protect and preserve the forest and our natural assets from the impacts of the inevitable growth in trail usage. With thoughtful planning between Stagecoach Adventures, the U.S. Forest Service, the City of Sisters, and local stakeholders, we are excited to provide next level experiences for locals and visitors with the goal of leaving the trails and our forest a better place than before. We are committed to providing all customers with education on the importance of forest and trail use etiquette, performing regular trail maintenance and strategic planning with the U.S. Forest Service and the City of Sisters on when and where we drop and pick people up. We feel that a Sisters-based shuttle service will have a very positive economic and social impact on Sisters. We aim to drop people off away from the congested areas at low volume points, helping to disperse users and reduce trailhead congestion.
In addition to social impacts with the shuttle service that is based out of Sisters, we will help to create extended stays by offering recreation packages with local lodging partners. This will allow people to stay in Sisters, recreate around Sisters, and shop and dine in Sisters without driving. We have several lodging partners on board in addition to partners like Hoodoo, Sisters Folk Festival, and the Barn in support. This type of experience and service is not currently offered in Sisters. The main challenge we are facing and why we're here tonight is due to a new Forest Service region-wide approach to the application and permitting process for shuttle companies like we're applying to operate. You need a permit to operate in the Forest Service. Unfortunately, we have made zero progress with the Sisters Ranger District on that application process. We have been told by the Sisters Ranger District several times throughout the past 11 months that we will hear back on a timeline and a process of our application. The last communication we received from the Ranger or the Recreation Manager at the Sisters Ranger office was on the 20th of June this year. And it read, "The Deschutes National Forest has submitted a request to Enterprise, which is a national support program, to assist in either an REI, a request for expression of interest, or a prospectus process, a full solicitation of prospectus businesses interested in providing these services. Because there are many folks interested in providing this opportunity down in Bend and potentially elsewhere, the rationale for the larger process is to ensure equitable opportunities broadly and a fair process for selection of new and existing permittees. As of now, Stagecoach is the only business that has contacted me for this type of service, but I am not sure if the Sisters Ranger District will be able to move forward on a local process or if we will be tied into the forest-wide efforts. If we were able to move forward without participating in the larger effort, we do have an open season where the outfitter and guides submit an application. All of the information needed for this process is found here, where we were given a link to the National Forest Guide and Permit website. It then read, I have committed to Casey and Henry that I would follow up with them once I better understand where we and the forest land with a decision on how to move forward. So that's the last communication we received from the Forest Service again in June. Since then, Henry and I have reached out to the Forest Service multiple times, and unfortunately, we have not heard anything back from the Sisters Ranger District. We now fear that due to a lack of response or action, we will miss out on this business opportunity. We have everything ready based on the link they provided and have notified them of this. We have put a lot of time and money into creating this business, and the window for application is from the 1st of October to the 1st of December. So we are quickly, approaching that date to operate in 2024. So why are we here? First off, we'd like to hear feedback and answer any questions that council may have, and make sure that we're aligned with the city needs, right from the start of this business venture. And number two, we're hopeful that with the support of the City of Sisters, that we could potentially get a letter of recommendation addressed to the Sisters Ranger District office, we are asking that council requests that the Sisters Ranger District move forward on a local process and not let the forest-wide efforts prevent a business like this from operating in Sisters in 2024. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. We unfortunately can't do a question and answer session now, but we may be able to discuss it during our mayor and councilor comments near the end of the meeting. So just wanted to let you know. Yeah. Thank you for that. Michael? Tough act to follow for you.
So I was gonna drop it all for what reason, but there's a person that I think about all night. So and that's part of this. So I'm gonna drop more than half of it. But the first small paragraph and then the last part. last meeting I repeated from others' use of it, homeless industrial complex. I was using it in context of a common social, psychological, behavioral structure, not the economic. Recently, I have associated and helped a middle-aged person who grew up part of what was just mentioned. And someone tried to dump the God thing on me that I didn't expect it from. So that's what I was writing about before this. Approximately 5 years ago, clarification came from outside its packaging. On top of this, the person started being torn apart by awareness of the obscene injustice of the society's economic disparity. They gave large portions of wealth away to eventually be living homeless with little more than what can be carried by themselves. The two of us were born different personalities. What matters to me, the departure from the old comforts to experience being separated from what's corrupting in this society. On to your town's most recent hot subject, loneliness. This person mentioned, who's not in Sisters, a few days ago was associating with people all day. Though when I showed up in the evening, unexpected, said it was the best thing that happened all day. Yes, had heavily been dropping into what you call loneliness. Through the years, because of physical illness, homelessness, most importantly, with the situations with your county, I cannot stay with associations. This is something this person will understand, though should not be happening. I'm required to tell you, and I'm speaking to anyone who hears this, you should feel real shame. Since I've been coming here, even much more tomorrow, if you are not part of starting what must be done.
Thank you, Michael. And for the record, that was 2 minutes. Thank you. Appreciate your brevity. All right. Any more? Visitor communication? Nobody online? Okay. Gary's online. Oh, no, he's not. He's right here. Okay. All right. Next up is a consent agenda. Entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda
Second.
as amended. Sorry.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very much. On to council business. Looks like we have an IGA to consider.
You do, Mayor, thank you. So this is the second IGA regarding Coordinated Houseless Office on Houselessness, I should say. And I think the council has the background on this particular IGA. This is formalizing what the council had approved previously with basically moving the office from Deschutes County to COIC. The council's representative on the CA, we call it CHARO. I've heard different ways to say that acronym, but the council's representative is our council president, and the staff liaison will be Carrie. And really this is to formalize that arrangement, and there's the bylaws too that they've developed over the summer of how this relationship will work. I think there's a separate MOU agreement that will be developed between COIC and Deschutes County about this arrangement. Some of the questions that you may have that we had too is about the financial commitment. As we recall, the governor's office distributed money to the different regions for these coordinated offices, and the Central Oregon area did receive $1 million, and I think that there's over 900,000 still left. But it will be a question in the future because this office is intended to persist for 5 years, I believe, per the agreements. But there's nothing in this IGA that commits the city, financially at this point. So what we're looking for tonight is the council's approval to execute the IGA and sign along with the other cities that will be taking it to their councils and the county commission in the upcoming, I think this month. So we have it.
All right. That's the report. Council President Blum, do you want to add anything to that, or, I mean, we kind of know.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, and one of the main reasons why most of the money is still there is just because Deschutes County and COIC and the city of Bend have staff people that have all been meeting and huddling together and trying to work on the whole houseless issue and have been the backbones of getting everything done that needs to be done in order for this to move forward. Lots of hours, lots of time, lots of meetings, and they've just done it out of their own salaries, for their own staff. They've just sort of volunteered to take it over until it can be transitioned and then set up with actual specific employees doing so many hours, and so that we can see what it's going to cost. You need to have some idea of what it will take to cost. And then once it is operational in a way that we can see what is likely to be able to be accomplished and what it's going to take financially, then the intention is to continue to seek support from the state and from grants and things like that, not necessarily looking for donations from cities to that, but that's not the first idea.
Okay, that's a surprise. No. Does anybody else have anything they want to ask or discuss about this?
Yeah, I just have one question, and Carrie or Counselor Blum can answer it about. It seems like a few years ago, watching this process around homelessness, that been very fractured. Lots of different groups working on it, different angles, different sources of money, different ideologies, things like that. So, how are you feeling about this process and this coordinated effort? Is this going to give the Deschutes County a more streamlined and better approach to this, or is this a step in the right direction? I mean, I feel like things need to be kind of more congealed. And
it is a step in the right direction, because the continuum of care and Housing Works and all the other organizations that are working on this issue all have tentacles or are facilitated through COIC. Already.
Right.
And one of the changes in the bylaws was to add to the charter board non-voting members from those agencies. Because when we get together, here we are, 3 city councilors from 3 cities and 1 county commissioners, some who may already be on some of these other boards, but some of us aren't. And so we absolutely need educating on what it means, why we need to do this, what's important, why should we favor this over this. It's amazing how much theoretical power there are in the boards that we land on when the people who do the day-to-day work and know what needs to be done, I guess it's like our staff. They're the ones that know what's going on, what needs to be done. And so we rely on them to come forward and say, this is how it will work better and why. And I guess because we're the politicians, therefore we have the laws require that we be the ones that administer. And so hopefully, it all just kind of depends on how well everybody plays together. And I came from Marion County, and that was a very, very, with the state agencies, a very, very, no, I'm not going to help you because then you'll get the money that I could have gotten had I applied for it kind of place. Central Oregon was not like that when I moved here, and I'm government-wise, Jefferson County, Crook County, Deschutes County all played well together, and if I can help you out, no sense duplicating, let's go move forward together. And I was like, whoa, this is really serious stuff. Hopefully this houseless community organizations are of the same mindset. And I have yet to see it play out, so I don't know. But I think
We're being hopeful.
we're being hopeful. I mean, if the governments can do it,
Yeah.
why not?
Well, I will say that I was happy when I read over the not RFP, but the MOU, that I saw that there was going to be non-voting representation from all those key agencies, which is something I thought was missing before. So I was very happy to see that.
Me too.
All right, we can probably entertain a motion if anybody is willing.
I would make a motion to approve the second intergovernmental agreement between Deschutes County and the cities of Bend, Lapine, Redmond, and Sisters for the Coordinated Houseless Response Office.
And
And you gotta finish the rest. And authorize the city manager.
And authorize, oh, okay, that was all it said. I was reading from the wrong thing. And authorize the city manager to sign it.
Yeah.
Manager to execute the agreement with minor legal revision.
There you go.
second,
All right. Is our motion good enough just to double check?
Perfect.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
I,
All right. Sounds good. That was all of our business today, regular business. Our other business is staff comments. City Manager Wheeler,
Thank you, Mayor.
Wheels, come on, man.
Thank you. Okay, great news. We just learned this week that Northwest Housing Alternatives did receive funding from Oregon Housing and Community Services. So we shared that news. I think it was picked up by media already. May get a call from the media about that. So they had submitted, I think they got the full funding of 9.8 million on the small project funds. And part of their paperwork was the commitment from the city of Sisters and the 500,000 in ARPA funds. So excited about that. I know Clayton was excited and eager to share the news, and I think we have him scheduled to come before the council
December 13th.
December 13th. And we expect they'll be working with us very soon on land use related matters, partitioning and the land use application.
Can you do a quick summary for the crowd? Just Trinity Place.
Yes, Trinity Place. I'm sorry. This is the affordable housing project that had submitted for a grant from the city. I think it's 40 units of affordable housing. And I think it's at that 80% AMI, right? So sort of on the top end of the affordable, but in that workforce housing sort of missing middle that we've been looking for. So, and location wise, it's on
Trinity Way.
Trinity Way, yes, but the property is owned currently by, or they're in contract with, name of the church.
Well House.
Well House, thank you.
Just south of Well House,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
south of Well House.
And then some just upcoming stuff. So the Holiday Palooza, and that's the Main Street Parade. This is put on by the Sisters Parks and Recreation District, but with the tree lighting at First Street Park. That is on the 25th. So they've combined those two events this year on November 25th, culminating with that tree lighting. So we're excited to see that. That's at 3:30 is when the parade starts on the 25th. I bring this up now because our next city council meeting will be scheduled for November 29th. We have Thanksgiving holiday, so just mark that on your calendars that on the 29th. And then we currently have that Republic Services fall cleanup that's underway right now. There was an article in the paper about the recycling center, and it's obviously been a work in progress for us to work with Republic on making sure it's cleaned and maintained. There is now drop boxes there, should help with some of the capacity issues of the boxes filling up. We're working with our staff to make sure they have a direct line to Republic to get those things picked up. But we do, thank the community and rely upon them too to let us know when there's issues so we can inform Republic, who is contracted for that recycling center. And I think the council knows this, but as part of this, recycling modernization act, the haulers are involved, and of course the state and DEQ. We've been considering what the future of that recycling center is going to be. And especially as we look at curbside services, modernization and standardization of all recyclables in Oregon. Kind of what is that a future service look like, and who operates it? Is it still necessary once we have curbside for all recyclables in town? Those kind of questions that we'll have to kind of play around with and think about as this kind of develops over the next years too, with the recycling. So
basically you're saying that at some point it may be not the best use of the land.
possibly, yeah, we have the transfer station. There should be money coming down to the haulers to provide more of those type of transfer stations and staffing, things like the recycling center. As I understand it, and of course being, new, but this is kind of a rare service for a city to operate a recycling center and contract for it. I think it was seen as an asset, and also for the surrounding Sisters country that doesn't have as much curbside service obviously, right? But our citizens within city limits have almost everything except for glass at this point. And it's, I think, kind of a legacy of city was one of the last cities to actually operate, a curbside service for garbage and recycling. So, it's kind of one of those legacy things that kind of is still, existing. I think people find value in it, but as things change in the business, we'll have to think about it.
I will say that I have noticed a significant change when High Country was absorbed into Republic in terms of how that facility looked. Used it for years, always looked relatively clean and neat. Boxes were not overflowing. I think we need to put a little heat on the Republic to pick it up a bit.
Yeah, and I know those have been
They wanted a big rate
but-
increase, they got it, let's do
Yeah.
something for it.
We do have an agreement that we've extended a few times. I know they're interested in maybe looking at that agreement. And again, it's complicated with the future of recyclables and, the future of that center, but they've had issues with staffing, and it's been a part of the rate setting conversation, which is, a question for policymakers too, is how much do we want to pay for a service like that, the city residents are paying for, which may benefit more folks outside of the city limits as opposed to the people that are actually paying for that curbside service within town. So something that we'll probably have to wrestle with over the next few years. But I kind of wanted to plant that seed given it's part of the community conversation right now.
But like I said, I think in the meantime, we still need to turn the heat up.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to look like it does. I know what people are complaining about. I've been over by there
Yeah.
to drop stuff off, and it doesn't look like it used to.
Yeah, and there's things too. Public information too can help. It's something that we can definitely help with what's appropriate there. What's it for? Recyclables. I mean, there's definitely some dumping that it happens that shouldn't be. But yeah, I hear you. I'm clear. And okay, let's. Who should we go first? Joe. Okay. Paul pointed at Joe. That's usually it's Carrie, but I think we'll.
Yeah, it's a long walk. So I just have a couple things. They're mainly updates actually from the last council meeting. So we've actually finished the project to transition our file server to the cloud, being hosted here at City Hall. It's about a 5 or 6 week process. So Velux, our IT contractor, came and decommissioned our server actually late last week. So they will show the proof of destruction for that. And then we're all tidy and neat in our server closet. So it looks really well organized in there. So that's good. That's a pretty big check mark, at least kind of internally for us. And then the second thing is on Monday, as I talked to you before, we'll have the utility billing hosting website active. So if you go on our website on Monday and you click on the utility billing link, it'll take you to the new website. So we talked with our team. It's going to be a little bit hectic probably on Monday to guide people through that. But again, we've been kind of letting them know through mailings and just conversations and things of that nature this whole time leading up. So it's not going to be a surprise, but there's always going to be kind of a little bit of learning curve for those folks. So exciting stuff for finance. We don't get these big projects all the time.
I got a credit.
Oh, you did?
I was overcharged.
Oh.
20 cents or something back.
Oh, all right.
I don't know how it happened because I had automatic pay. So, but anytime it's a credit, I'm pretty.
Yeah, every penny helps. So I'll look at that account now.
And
I'll have to chew that up.
Remind me, because I'm old and feeble, and the paper billing will cease to exist.
No, the paper billing will stay the same. The hosted environment is different. So instead of going to one website, you'll be going to a different one. The reasoning mainly was for just more user access to information. Yeah,
Okay.
consumption, things of that nature.
Thank
So, yep. That's all I have.
On the
Oh.
bills, the First Street cell tower, we pay $1,200 or so in taxes.
In property taxes, yep.
And charge back to the cell tower folks to make so that we don't end up paying for their cell tower?
In a way, it's just a component of the cell tower lease that we have with them.
Okay, so that.
Yep.
so
It takes care of it in a sense.
Taxes for them.
Correct.
And we pay the Oregon Treasury for unclaimed property. How does that work?
Yep. So every year, we have unclaimed property. They're typically utility bill returns. And so if we're trying to return a utility deposit to somebody, we can't find them. right? You by law have to turn them into Oregon unclaimed property. And so we do that this time every year. There's only about, oh gosh, now we only have about 7 or 8 items to turn in because we kind of just try to track down people as quickly as we can to return those payments back to them. So yep, you send that out to the treasury, and then that person can conceivably log in and claim that money back in unclaimed property. So that is us remitting the unclaimed property to the state, and someone can claim that from the state.
Okay.
People that move around a lot, like I have in my lifetime before I lived here, should always look back in states they used to live. I found stuff in Texas after I moved back here.
And I have found stuff all the way back to.
Sure. And it's good practice. It keeps your outstanding checks clean, so you don't have a big list of outstanding checks, right? So auditors like that, accountants like that, keep things a little bit more cleaned up.
State doesn't mind, they get to hold.
Yeah, the state can get as much interest as they want after, gosh, it's like $5 billion. It's a lot of money that's in that pool. I think it's around the billion. It's in the billions, I think. Yeah.
After a certain amount of time, then the state can just use it properly?
Probably. They probably float it with some kind of financing that they use, but I'm not sure, to be honest. Yeah.
Big bucks. The EV park stations that we have in there.
Yep.
How much does it cost to use them? You know?
That's a good question. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, the library picks up that bill.
Yeah, I think so.
And so I'm not sure.
No user charge?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. There's no user. They're not, those are free. There's no user charge.
The EV stations we're gonna put in are not gonna be free, are they?
That is not the plan.
Not the plan.
Yeah, but we still have to get some things ironed out with CEC and how to,
What is it usually?
I think it depends on which.
You're asking the wrong person,
Oh,
because
okay.
when I
'Cause
bought
he's-
my car, I got free charging for life.
Oh, okay. I just wondered.
So it cost me, but I can tell you that when I charge my car at home, a full tank costs $3.60.
That for Central Electric.
Yep.
Pretty
Yep.
cheap stuff. And we purchased $750 worth of aspen trees from CNC Nursery. It's probably Paul. Where did we put those trees?
Downtown.
Downtown,
Where did we put the aspen tree?
part of the landscaping.
Downtown.
Petulia Clark. Trivia question. I think they're in bulb outs, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, he can
Okay.
include that in his comments.
I'm not a fan.
Anything else for Joe? Good job.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, you want to come up and talk about aspen trees?
I saw the bill, I remember the bill, but.
I signed the check.
So those are replacement trees for Cascade Avenue. We lost 2 right in front of the old Antler Arts building and 1 up in front of Martoli's, I believe. So,
Were those the ones that were being overwatered?
well, potentially, yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot
Yep.
of root rot or something like that, if I remember.
Actually bug infestation. Yep. Does that help?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just not a fan of aspen trees.
Hey, can you
so I
cross
don't-
all your stuff so you know not
Yeah.
to do it again?
Yeah, don't.
I'm
ever
just
do
kidding.
Well, they're Swedish aspen. They're not the quaking aspen. So different,
In front of Martoli's, I'll give it a look.
yeah. So they don't have a lot of the root creep that you see with suckers and
Pumping up the sidewalks.
exactly. They were specifically chosen because of their ability to behave as a street tree. So
A good
If they're Swedish, did you have to assemble them?
what's that?
Did they come with an Allen?
Did I miss that? Yeah, sorry.
I
Yeah.
can get trees.
Got it.
Yeah, trees.
So a little bit more on Cascade. We'll be putting up snowflakes next week. More Christmas lights. A couple of those aspen trees actually were ones that had Christmas lights in them. So we got to redo a couple other trees downtown. And yeah, the dark skies are going to be going away for the next couple months in the downtown area. So just a heads up on that. We scheduled a one stop, and I don't know if you're familiar with these. It's a meeting to meet with all of our fund funding agencies that fund water and wastewater projects. So USDA, DEQ, OHA, Clean Water State Revolving Fund, Business Oregon. So you send them, and we're starting with their water projects first. We basically send them a application form that talks about our projects, the cost estimate, the timing, the need. And we're talking, you know, basically $12 million worth of water projects. The new reservoir, the new Edgington Road trunk line, the replacement of the existing trunk line down to White Shoes Creek, well one improvements. Those are kind of the big ones right there. So you give this information to the funding agencies ahead of time. You show up and you give your dog and pony show, and then they come up with some funding scenarios, and you basically walk out of there hopefully with a funding strategy in place to be able to start working on getting loan applications, grant applications into these agencies to start the ball rolling. So we have that in the work plan. So we're executing it. So
One stop.
they call it the one stop. Yeah. I don't know if Oregon is the only one that does it, but it's a pretty cool, efficient way to get everybody in the room. So that's all I had. If there's any other questions,
Looks good.
we're getting there. A lot of leaves,
Yeah, no, it looks good.
a lot of pine needles. Get it all cleaned up and then the wind blows. So
Tell me.
Thanks, Paul.
Scott, you want to come and talk some more? Community development.
Busy looking at unclaimed property back in Colorado. But I'll take a few minutes to talk about what's going on in planning. So land use applications, we have a few in right now, nothing of major significance. Brunchies is looking to become permanent over at the neighboring property. You know, you'll recall they came in for a temporary use permit, but they've got a site plan approval in for permanent approval there. Building permits, we've had a few run on building permits lately. It's kind of been going down, but kind of had a little blip just recently. And I think that's due to a batch we got from the Woodlands development, some more cottage units. And I will be seeing the first townhome units coming out of the ground there in the near future. And then you'll recall Sunset Meadows master plan that came through. The multifamily piece has actually come forward with, just recently got a land use approval and has submitted their building permits, had actually submitted their building permits prior to land use approval. But we've waited till land use approval is effective, but that's going forward. That's 84 units of multifamily. We're continuing to process, taking advantage of this little bit of a lull in land use applications to process development code amendments. And you've seen some activity on those already with the dark skies ordinance that we're going to Planning Commission for adoption here soon. The short-term rental ordinance that we're taking another look at. Matt Martin is spearheading that. And one thing that you'll maybe see out in the community is a survey that we're preparing to send out to owners or folks that have short-term rental licenses to get a little more information about who they are, what they're, do they do it a lot? Do they do it just a little bit? Are they a business? Are they a homeowner? Do they rent out an ADU, part of their house, their whole house, just to get more information and kind of an understanding, as well as an opportunity to let them know that the council is going through this process so that they're aware. We're also working on defensible space standards that we're pairing with building hardening requirements. And Matt's formed an advisory committee to help advise that, made up of the fire chief and building department folks to help advise that. So we'll be bringing that back in the future, near future. And then just wanted to highlight the fact that the Planning Commission met last week and talked about community involvement. You guys may remember or may not remember that goal one of our comprehensive plan is community involvement. It's the first goal of the statewide planning goals. And that was done for a reason. It's to kind of emphasize how important that is to the land use planning program. And there's a provision in there in the policies of our comprehensive plan that the planning commission is the community involvement committee. And their job is to analyze their community involvement techniques that we currently use, and then provide recommendations to council on their assessment and recommendations for improvement. So we had that opportunity to do that exercise last week. It was a really good exercise, and I think we heard a lot of good feedback from the planning commission, and want to make sure that that doesn't get lost and that turns into potential action items. But since the information is supposed to go to the council first and then kind of come back to staff, I think the best thing to do is to maybe get on a work session in the future and kind of present what those results were. So good exercise. A lot of communities just kind of bypass that kind of process, that whole process. You know, when it gets busy, we got a lot of land use applications that kind of gets pushed to the waste, to the sidelines. We now have an opportunity to kind of give that some thrift. So that's about it.
The Sisters Way.
Yes.
So relative to some of the comments this evening from our citizens, there was the concern about STRs, and I just want to emphasize that we are looking at that as part of, you know, our growth concerns. And then could you comment on the 20% empty homes? Are those all second homes, or are there empty homes that are not second homes? The 20% of
I think that's a good question. I'm not sure if that kind of parses out just, I don't know, somebody not home, somebody on vacation permanently, or I think most of them the majority of them are second homes.
Okay.
So
I think some are third homes.
or third homes.
Yeah, not,
Exactly.
but they're not the primary residence. I think
Yeah.
we should use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple of them look abandoned. There's that potential too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have a way of knowing if a home is abandoned? I mean, a process?
If we get complaints about them.
Yeah, but if they're paying their property taxes, they
That's
probably
right.
don't rise to any, you know, and.
And
what
maintaining their
authority,
property.
if any, does a community have over homes that people have for second or third homes?
What control?
Yeah, that was my
There's
point.
no-
I'm
Yeah,
not,
there's nothing we can do. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I've heard, I've heard there's talk about, I don't know if this is done in Oregon or not, about taxes on second homes to discourage them. I'm not sure if any communities implemented that yet or
would
not.
be on a city county basis as I would think that would
Well,
have to be a statewide.
it could be a strategy to bring houses back into the rental market. I think when we talk about what we want to do, and we're looking at along with the efficiency measures, whether we talk about STRs or ADUs, I think we also have to talk about those homes that are not occupied on a permanent basis, that are a second or third home, not a primary residence. And do we, as a city, want to encourage them to move into the rental pool by that's the discussion I've heard about some kind of I want to call it an occupancy tax, but I guess that's probably a good word as any. There are other names that it's utilized by.
Oh, vacancy tax.
Vacancy tax. There you go. That's a better.
Well,
And
and
it's
was struggling
in my experience and my research, it's usually done at the city level. It's not like
Yeah.
a state or county thing.
Really? So there are cities out
Yeah.
there that have a property tax on second homes at the city level.
Or, vacant, yeah.
Oh, it's not necessarily a property tax. It's a,
Probably more like a fee.
It could be a fee, it could be a tax.
If you're looking at the definition of tax. Fee.
Yeah.
I know, Jordan, you had mentioned that in Sandy, in your URA, there was some.
We're looking at
Looking at,
vacancy tax or vacancy fee on empty storefronts.
I like the vacancy fee word better, actually, is what we're really doing.
yeah, maybe.
because that's the problem. Yeah. So on the homes that could possibly be abandoned, I mean, not that somebody owns them, but nobody owns them. It's like the person's dead and, I mean, how would we as a city know if a house just doesn't have an owner, that the owner's gone? We don't.
Water bill, water bill is about all you got,
Okay.
Well, the county would
Yeah.
own it because they wouldn't be paying their property tax.
And yeah.
And the last time the county, not the last time, but prior to that, I asked them, does the county own any properties in the city?
Oh,
And they looked at LELAC or somebody and they said, no.
okay. Thank you.
They,
Yeah, because I was gonna,
they auction them
well,
off.
could have some homeless shelter there, county property.
And then I want to beg your time a little longer. So another concern was, if we had a moat around us, hopefully with not alligators in it, that we, what would we do? And I just would like your expression of the fact that we did look at that, trying to grow up.
Mhm.
If you can't grow out, could you comment on that, please?
Yeah, that I mentioned during the work session, the efficiency measures process that we went through, and that was a process to try to be creative and to try to consider all the things we could do to meet that demand without increasing our boundaries. And I do think that the conclusion or the summary of that exercise was that we could accommodate more, but we couldn't accommodate all of it without compromising other elements of the town that we hold near and dear, like our views and our Western design theme and charm. So it was kind of a balance between the two.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just saw something on Monaco today, and Monaco is just under 1 square mile, so half the size of Sisters, and they have like 35,000 people. So think about, and they have an ocean on one side and it's built on a mountainside, so
And a Formula One race.
yeah, talk about it, go straight up.
Cost per square foot.
Well, how much affordable housing do they have?
And probably not a lot.
Have to ask the king.
Right,
That's what France is for.
right. Anything else? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You've escaped.
Last but not least.
Scared.
So recruitment for boards ends on Friday. So if anybody is wanting to turn their application in, that would be great. We do have quite a number in, but they're welcome. And a couple ordinances coming your way. The contracting code has been updated. There's been a lot of changes in the legislation to contracting code. So we do this every few years. That's going to come your way on the 29th. And I believe the tree code ordinance will also come your way on the 29th. And there's some odd dates because we're not having that meeting on the day before Thanksgiving. The packet will go out to you next Thursday, the 16th, very, very early, as well as the ordinance's notification for the meeting on the 29th because of the my schedule during the week of Thanksgiving. Joe, you missed this. I can't believe I'm taking your thunder here, but Scott Langton is coming tomorrow to the city. He'll be here at 5 o'clock in council chambers or conference room A, and he'll be able to talk about property taxes and any question you want to ask that assessor. He comes every year after the property tax bills come out. He usually sees only a couple of people, so come on down.
It was in the Nugget.
Oh, excellent. They made the Nugget perfect. I did attend Explore Sisters. Mayor Preet and I did about 2 weeks ago, almost to the day. And just some of the topics, they're still working through quite of their branding, which is getting quite close. And the initial website, if I'm right, will be up by January. So right now they're led into the Central Oregon Business Association website, but they should be up and running fairly soon. So that's great news for them. And then we have posted the Deputy City Recorder Communications Coordinator position. So we are in full search mode for that. Applications until December 1st or until filled. So if you guys have any ideas or people that might be interested, please let them know. It's available on our website. That's all that I have.
Anything for Carrie? Question? Thanks for all you do. You're the glue. What about yours? You? Oh, I did mine, right? Oh, okay.
You went first.
All right. All right, it's up to us now. We had a presentation early from a concerned citizen and Stagecoach Adventures and anybody have any thoughts on that? Yeah. Go ahead.
Have you interfaced with COIC, the Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council? Because in Bend, they have similar such businesses and associated with CET, but CET feeds up to CYC.
We have not at this point, no.
Okay.
Contacted. So locally.
Okay.
Can I have you come up to the mic if you could, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, yes, we have not contacted COIC. Happy to take any recommendations from council of, who might help to keep this process moving along. We've contacted EDCO and have support of Explore Sisters and some of the, sisters avenues at this point, but happy to look into that as well.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea because they're intergovernmental, they might be able to expedite this issue that you're having.
I appreciate that.
Any insight on the force side of that? Yeah, I don't know. I'm just,
I-
I don't
did I
want to
speak
get you
for-
in,
Speak Forest Service?
yeah, a little
Um,
bit. I mean,
Well, it all makes sense and that it doesn't make sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
I think that, my confusion is that I could see why if they had done a request for a proposal, I could see why there would be an interest in trying to get more more people to apply or being more inclusive in that process. I don't understand why in the reverse, when you're coming to them with a one-off unique idea, it's getting sucked into this process as if they had created an RFP and be kumbaya. I'm not understanding that part of it. And
Yeah.
I think that the irony for us is that we, the city purchased, Forest Service land, that last parcel of their headquarters here to be a transit center in part because of a business just like this. Obviously we want long and regional transit, commuter transit, but we also were very much interested in having some sort of recreational transit available for locals and our visitors because there is zero of that. So I find that a situation ironic, but yeah, we can talk offline and I certainly still have a lot of relationships with a lot of people in the agency. So I can try to help.
yeah, and I think that the part of the concern that you're going to get from up here is, it's not a position that we would ever take to just recommend one business, but
And we're not asking.
and we understand that that's not what you're looking for. But at the same time, are we here to help facilitate businesses as a whole?
Yes.
Well, yeah, definitely. And if there's a situation where things just don't seem proper or whatever, and things are just tough for some reason, I think that there's definitely some conversations that could be had about it's not your business. It could be any business that's trying to do what you're doing. But just at this point, you're the only one. So I think that there could be some conversations that could be had. What, is it a letter of support from council? I don't know at this point. I think we.
Yeah, you really don't know.
It's
what
too
way
early
that
to
would-
be able to, but we know you're time sensitive too. So I think that obviously we have relations with a lot of the people that you're interested in hearing from. So I think that that's one way that public officials can help is just having conversations. Sometimes things are offline and behind the scenes, and then there's nothing wrong with that. It's just an inquiry. Hey, we heard that someone's trying to do something now. Is there any way we can help? And that might be something that we can do a little bit. Gary wants to talk too.
Yeah, I read your letter that came to us for the meeting. And I think it's an excellent idea. And it's a little unfortunate you're on a tight time crunch. It might have been nice to even have this discussion a couple of months ago where maybe we could have applied some general pressure in different ways. But I kind of hear what the rest of the council's saying. But I'm also wondering if and not to put Jordan on the spot, wheels on the spot. I mean, you meet with Ian on some occasion, and is there a chance to kind of put a bug in his ear about, is there a way to expedite this? This is something that we as a community and as a council think would be important for where we want to go with sustainable tourism and where we want to go with some of the very things that we put together. why we moved our transient lodging tax to an organization like Explore Sisters was that we really wanted to think about conscious tourism and those sorts of things. And that's what I read in your letter, and that's what I heard. So anyway, that's I don't think a letter from this council is going to carry a heck of a lot of weight. It probably really needs to be finding the right ear to put something into.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, we're not here to try to pressure you or anything.
No.
And we've been trying to
And we're not
do a due diligence on our own.
Don't feel it at all.
And
I think
it's, now it's come down to,
Yeah, it's kind of last resort, you know, honestly, from a business planning perspective, we don't really want to go on public record before we're, you know, able to move forward. And so we're kind of at that last ditch effort now, and that's why we're presenting tonight.
And we feel your pain because like you, we are an anomaly in the sense that we're such a small community that when we go into the statewide laws and planning goals and all the things that we participate in, we have to abide by the same rules and everything that big cities do. And it doesn't apply to us in so many occasions. And so you're stuck in that, well, this applies to this huge process, but you're just this little plot. And they're really, it's not like as if there was a whole bunch of companies out there that were vying to get into Sisters. And so you need to compete with all of them. I mean, that's not where we're at. So undoubtedly their rules just don't favor that kind of a situation. So hopefully you can put a plug in and find out
Find out more information why it's taken
why
11
it's-
months to.
I mean,
Yeah.
if a letter from us makes a difference, absolutely we would consider it, but will it? Do we know what the problem is?
And I'm just kind of wondering, you know, maybe going through, what was the name of that group? Well, who was the group that you approached? The forestry something, what was it? The group you approached to,
So we've been essentially, you know, the business is, you know, relying on a permit from the United States Forest Service, and we're
Right.
dealing with the Sisters Ranger District
right?
as our point of contact. But as we've mentioned, unfortunately, it's been hard to communicate with them, and so we haven't gotten much back from them. But I don't know if there was another organization you were referencing.
Don't recall.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
I mean, did you talk to the National Forestry Service and they told you to go through the?
No, and you know, so honestly, we've talked to other businesses that are in this space and have been informed that there is a potential that we could go, for instance, to Detroit Ranger District or to Bend or Prineville, where recreation is very well received compared to our local ranger district. And they could theoretically give us a permit to operate in the Sisters Ranger District, as well as, you know, potentially other ranger districts that if we wanted to go run a shuttle in Mackenzie Bridge or something like that from Sisters, we would need a permit for there as well. And so, you know, the last thing we want to do though is go around what we see as being our local partner. Like, it's very important for us to work with them and say, you know, where is there too much trail usage? Where are the pain points? How can we work together on that? And we don't see that opportunity if we, you know, go around them per se.
Understand.
Well, I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. I think that it's,
I think it's a
you know,
needed service.
it's, this is, it's difficult because you're publicizing everything you're doing.
Totally.
At a time when you kind of don't want to, but sometimes you just need a little extra help, and we'll see what we can do.
We would really
Can I say,
appreciate it.
may I say one more thing? I think a letter from us would be helpful. I mean, because it's the Sisters Ranger District, and if the Council of Sisters says, you know, hey, you know, we're interested in this happening, I think it's fair for us to have a letter.
I think that, you know, we'll try a gentle approach first, and then we'll, you know, we can look at that as a,
Because our next meeting isn't until the 29th.
I realize.
Yeah.
I mean, I think,
Yeah, we can make some phone calls and.
yeah.
stuff. I mean, because we don't know if this is stuck.
There
on
isn't
lo-
anybody up here
locally.
that's opposed.
Yeah,
Right.
you don't know if it's stuck here locally, if it's
Yeah, if
everything.
Jordan comes back and says, yeah, it would be helpful, we can do it.
They've been
that
going through a
day.
process where they're trying to regionalize and stovepipe everything and then.
So,
not
so
making it
basically
better.
we're saying, we're giving a nod to having a letter, but we're not going to do the letter now. And then that way the city knows that they can draft something up if we get to that point,
I think
right?
we're gonna reach out. I think we're gonna reach out. and
Right.
See what happens.
But then we have a backup plan
Yeah.
before our meeting.
Maybe.
Yeah, okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
Let's do step one before we worry too much about step two.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate, it's hard, I know, so thanks for coming forward with it.
Thank you.
Okay, it's just the five of us left. Who wants to go first? Counselor Scott? You want to go first with counselor comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. You want to go last?
I don't even think I need to go.
Okay.
Gary?
Just a quick comment, as long as the voice holds out. Among the many things I did in my trip to Sedona, besides get COVID, which Arizona COVID, which put me in a car most of the time riding around, I began to realize, having approached Sedona from 4 different directions, there's a big sign that says, "Welcome to Sedona, an international dark sky community," right on the welcome to sign.
Cool.
Town of about 10,000 people, lots of tourism, a significant commercial district. And you walk out at night and you can see the stars. And their lighting code is very strong. And in fact, I looked at it online, and they require a very warm light temperature, including at gas stations. And so their street lighting I thought was attractive. It blended into the background. It was not very far off the ground where it was pedestrian and where it was at traffic circles, and they have them. It was a little higher up, it illuminated the traffic circle, but nothing else. So it's a good sign that we can do some things here as a community. And they're no different than we are. They're a tourist community. Their population swells every time there's a big tourist event. And I was surprised and amazed at how well it's working in a town of that size. That's all.
And they also have the only teal McDonald's M in the world.
That's true, and every building is painted sort of a rust color to blend with the background. They have very strong design standards there.
Wow.
Yeah, and October 26th was a bicycle pedestrian advisory committee hosted summit in Sun River, kind of an all-day event. It was very good. They had a lot of good speakers. It was well organized. So kudos to them. I'm on the board, but they did most of the work before I got at it. So yeah, there was some good topics about e-bikes came up a few times. One panel had their public works director and their chief of police, speaking towards their obviously bike ped infrastructure, which is extremely extensive in Sun River, 34 miles of paths.
Wow.
And the interesting thing was that while and then Emerson Levy talked later, because she is trying to work at the state level on rules and legislation around e-bikes, partially because there is no definition of an e-bike at the state level, so there's no way to manage them legally or otherwise. So they're trying to just start there. But the chief of police was saying that while it's the issue is speed, but you can go fast on a normal bike, but they said over the last few years they have not seen really any uptick in accidents, kind of the same number of accidents, whether it was e-powered or otherwise, which I thought was interesting feedback. And they had one of the rental company owners there, and they're like, everybody wants e-bikes. So really good feedback in essence that you know, something we definitely need to be discussing and weaving into our planning and our infrastructure. Because they're not going away, and while they can cause some problems, they have, I think, way more benefits than the problems, so. And Paul, they have mastered how to build a bike path in our climate, finally, after 30 or 50 years. So, they've got a whole system and then this little layer cake of asphalt and glass plate and all this, and so if you're looking, or we're looking for the next bike path and how to build it, they've got it dialed in now, so no need to try to figure that out. Pretty impressive. So yeah, otherwise that was a good event. Jordan and I and Scott Woodford attended Bend Chamber of Commerce at a half-day impact conference. Kind of focused on, one of their top speakers was, or main speakers was a woman from the Headwaters Economics who'd written a paper on amenity gap, life in gateway communities or recreation communities, and all, all the greatest hits of lack of housing and costs and all that kind of stuff. So, she's had a paper that I've read, but came out with this year, but, highlighted a couple things that other communities are doing, and you're absolutely not alone in this, for sure. So, and then they kind of had some breakout sessions on policy and real estate and travel and all that kind of stuff. So, well-attended event, big event, for Bend Chamber of Commerce. And I'm just looking at my calendar here. Tomorrow at 4 to 6. Mosaic Medical is having their open house over at the the school health building, which is county owned. Speaking of county owned properties, next to the high school, just to the east of. So that's an open house. That's really exciting. 0 to 18-year-olds. It's a pediatric clinic, but anybody can take their kids there, whether they go to school or not. They're going to be open, I think, preliminarily 4 days a week, and have a whole range of services. So something badly needed in our community. So big win for us. So the community is invited to attend that. So that'll be exciting. And I think that was about it. Gonna go, and then it just kind of keep rolling. No pun intended with the e-bikes. The next city club will be on e-bikes as well. So I'm going to attend that as well. Just to see if there's any kind of added information there, but definitely something needs to be on our radar. So I think that's it.
Okay. Council President Blunt.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Done all the talking I wanted to do.
All right. I already talked about Outlaws girls volleyball, the state champs. Yay. Go Outlaws. I had a couple things I've been doing last Friday. A few weeks ago, I was asked to help out LOC at a training session. It was in Redmond on Friday, and it was about handling difficult meetings on contentious city councils. And they asked me, because obviously they think you guys are difficult or something.
We trained you well.
And I actually thought when they asked me to do it, it was because I was thinking contentious meetings with some of the tougher topics that we've had over the last year. And that's not what it was about. It was about actual having city councilors not getting along and breaking etiquette and things like that. So I didn't have a lot to go with there to help train Fossil, Shannico, Prineville, Bend, Redmond. So those are the kind of people that were there. There was counselors there. There was, a couple of mayors, and then some city personnel like reporters and stuff like that. And then some at those smaller towns are multiple things of those people as well. It went pretty well, and basically I just tried to preach grace, just have grace with people, and as mayors run good meetings and try and have decorum and be punctual and
try and stay on topic as much as possible. That was the first thing. So that was Friday. That was pretty cool. I got 2 pieces of pizza for that. That was good.
But the 2 piece of pizza.
Two pieces, Abby's. It was really good. The other thing I've been doing, and Paul's kind of involved in this a little bit, is with Cocoa. We've been having many discussions with the Oregon Water Resources Department. They're the people that are changing the rules for future water allocation. They've made drafts. They made drafts of the rules back in either the spring or early summer, and the drafts were really not applicable for the Deschutes Basin. They used the Umatilla water basin as the guide, and they basically said, well, if your basin goes down 25 feet or more for certain periods of time, then they'll just suspend new water rights. And unfortunately, our huge 1,000-foot deep plus aquifer, it goes down 37 feet in summer because it's warm and there's more usage, and then it replenishes itself. And so the rules are not basin specific. OWRD is being very rigid, I would say is the proper word. They think and they're touting it's science-based, and Cocoa's position for the Deschutes Basin, and we're the only ones saying this, is that it's not science-based if it doesn't include specific scientific data from each basin. Our basin is not the same as Harney County. Our basin is not the same as Tillamook. It's not the same as Umatilla, which they use as a guide. And the things happening in our basin are unique, and one of the reasons that Cocoa was created back in 1996 was for water-specific issues. And so we're really kind of bumping heads with them, trying to get them to suspend the rules making for a while to add a little more science to it. Even though they say it's science, yeah, I understand that, but it's not science that's specific to our need, and it can actually unintentionally create a moratorium of water in our area, which would probably halt all new construction, probably halt all new business in our area, and we're the fastest growing area in the state. So we as Cocoa we're putting up the good fight. That's what we're doing. And it hurts municipalities, it hurts out in the county, and Redmond's going with the water application right now, and they're trying to apply new rules that don't exist yet to a curtain application, and we're obviously trying to help Redmond with their situation. So it's going to probably get noisier before it gets quieter again on that, and you might hear more about that. Yesterday, was it yesterday? I guess it was just yesterday. It was in front of the legislature committee on water, and there was about 25 speakers, many for, many against, but Cocoa and I spoke for Cocoa, and I had 4 minutes and got through 3 pages, and we're the only ones actually trying to move the needle and slow things down a little bit. So hopefully that works, and we're not bludgeoned with one-size-fits-all state rules. That's what we're trying to avoid. Because as we know in other areas, it doesn't work too well there either. Other than that, I don't really have anything. I did want to say a couple of things. Thanksgiving's coming, and I wanted to say I'm thankful to this community because it's provided a place for me to raise another kid, even at my age, and it's a great place to live, and I'm just thankful for it, the whole thing.
It helps that you haven't got any more mature than you were, so.
That's right. One day at a time.
So I didn't know, Mayor, if you wanted to mention something about pickleball.
Yeah, I mean, I could, we had Mr. Carpenter here today, speaking about pickleball. It's gaining momentum as far as being wrapped into our Parks Master Plan. We've had discussions about putting courts in certain places. I don't think there's anything more we need to talk about now, but it's the ideas are out there, so I think that people should definitely know that. And yeah, we don't think that neighborhood parks are a great place for them either because of the same concerns that other people have, which is they're loud. So hopefully we can come together as a community and find some places in some of our newer parks or newer areas that we can put some in. I think that's definitely part of the plan.
Just a quick addition, I wanted to mention, I was in Sedona about 20 years ago and stayed in Oak Creek or Oak, whatever it is, just outside of Sedona. And there was a glow. You could see it at night when you looked at Sedona. You don't see that glow now. So you can go in and do things to roll back some of the mistakes or whatever have been done. So that was, I thought, the real eye-opening thing for me. Either that or I was hallucinating because I have COVID. It could have been that too, but accused of many things. And I will say one thing for our pickleball folks that have come in, whether it's been to the Parks Board or whether it's been here or wherever, they're the first one to admit that the game makes a lot of noise, and that noise is extremely irritating to anybody who happens to be living nearby.
Yeah.
And I have had, in my experience with Park District for 15 years when I was in the Valley, we'd have people that come in and say, "Oh, no, it's low impact, no big deal."
Ask anybody who lives in Sage Meadow,
and
they hate it.
And so they here at least, their folks are being very upfront about it.
Yeah.
Which I think makes our job easier down the road.
Well, isn't it Sun River that put a bunch of them indoors?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think they converted one of the tennis facilities
yeah, I think.
right
that-
across from the condo that I owned, that
But like they put in,
why I sold it.
Second home.
yeah,
Sold it a long time
so
ago.
that
You
would
have
help
some-
with the
yeah.
noise.
And hedges could help cut down some of the noise.
Just happy Veterans Day to all who serve, including our mayor.
Thank you. I'm gonna be in the parade in Bend on Patty Adair's truck.
Are you gonna
Found out
drape
today.
green on your red truck when you're in the Christmas parade?
I am gonna be in the Christmas parade.
But you have to have some green on it because it's red.
Okay, I'll try and get a wreath.
You're wearing a green t-shirt, that'll work.
Yeah.
Let's not pick him apart.
All right, ready? We're done.